Hi, if you're seeing this video, then you missed class today on November 9th. This is day 16 in person. So please listen to the video, answer the questions, and go ahead and submit those answers to me via email, and you'll get credit for 4 points for on time, 4 points for participation. So we are close to ending the unit on Machlok in the early stories of the Torah and the history of that Machloket. And you were asked to view the book of Job during your homework. And I'd like to go through, I asked the class today to go through kind of what is similar about the stories of the Akedah and the book of Job, and what is different about these stories. Because Judy Klissner is going to make the claim that actually, when we read the Akedah story and that we see that that Abraham is very obedient in that story, that we're actually also supposed to be, the story actually hints at another story that comes much later in the Torah. And that story, not even in the Torah, but in the Bible itself, and that story is the book of Job. And there are enough similarities that a person who really knows the Bible well will say, that reminds me of another story. That reminds me of this story. That reminds me of another story. And in that story, there is something very different than blind obedience. In that story, there is a character that is ready to protest with God, is ready to ask questions about God's way of doing justice and God's way of offering reward and what that's all about. So let's go ahead first and look at the similarities between the two stories. So and again, you should be able to answer these by looking at because you did your homework this past week. So both Abe and Job are described as, that's question number one. Question number two, the angel that pushes God to act in both stories is none other than an angel named what? That's question number two. At the end of the story, how are our main characters treated? Are they punished or are they rewarded? That's question number three. Question number four, from God's point of view, were the tests that made up each story, were they passing the test? Was there success or was there failure? That's question number four, and you can answer that by way of was there a punishment or reward? Now, what about the differences? Let's look there. In the Akedah story, God threatens to kill blank of Abraham's children. That's question five. In the story of Job, God does kill. It's question number six. Blank of Job's children. Number seven, Abraham is rewarded at the end and gets exactly the same son back again, right? Isaac comes back, and Job is rewarded at the end, and what does he get back? That's question number eight. Question number nine is, in the story of the Akedah, innocent people do or do not suffer. Circle one of those. Physically, in the story of Job, innocent people do not suffer physically. That's 10 and 11. Number 12, of Job and Abraham, who is the one who protests? That's 13. Of Job and Abraham, who's the one who doesn't protest? That's question number 14. Number 15. In the story of the Akedah, God does or does not ask for voiceless obedience. And that's question number 16. Question number 17 is, in the book of Job, God does not ask for voiceless obedience. What seems to be rewarded in the Akedah story? What is it that Abraham does that seems to receive reward? That's 18. And question number 19 is, what seems to be rewarded in the book of Job? That's question number 20. All right, let's go over these now. Both Abe and Job are described as fearing God. The angel that pushes God to act in both stories is an angel named Satan or Satan. At the end of both stories, each of our main characters are rewarded. From God's point of view, the test that made up each of the stories was a success. So that's what's similar about the two stories, the Akedah and Job. Now let's look at the differences. In the Akedah story, God threatens to kill one of Abraham's children. In the Job story, God does kill 10 of Job's children, all of the children. In Abraham is rewarded at the end and gets the exact same son back. Job is rewarded at the end and gets a completely new family. Number three, in the story of the Akedah, innocent people do not suffer physically. In the story of Job, innocent people do suffer physically. In the story of Job, Job is a protester. Abraham is not a protester. In the story of the Akedah, God does ask for voiceless obedience. But in the story of Job, God doesn't ask for voiceless obedience. God allows Job the possibility of arguing. God doesn't say, I can't believe you argued, Job. How could you do that? I'm God and you're not. What seems to be rewarded in the Akedah story? Well, it seems to be that because Abraham doesn't ask, doesn't question, just goes and does, that he's rewarded. What seems to be rewarded in the book of Job, um, there, it seems to be that it's okay to go ahead and to argue with God. And I think from this, by the way, I would just say that what we learn is that maybe, even though we saw in the Akedah story that Abraham is a blind obedient person, not like he was in the Sodom and Gomorrah story, we actually see that maybe Abraham could have argued with God, could have done something and could have said, I don't know, God, this doesn't seem like the right thing. And God would have said, you know what, that's okay. You can actually ask for clarification here if you want. And that kind of presents so in our history of machloket, that says, well, although Abraham, in the story of Sodom, Abraham is a machloket maker. In the story of the Akedah, Abraham is not. But the story of Job is telling us, think again, Abraham, maybe you should have actually gone ahead and argued with God. Okay, so our next piece was I gave three potential quotes that maybe Judy Klister would say with regards to Abraham and with regards to the book of Job. Either, and I just want you to kind of think about which one. This is number one, two, three. Which one do you think is the quote that she does say? The book of Job teaches us that to be God's beloved servant no longer requires voiceless acceptance of all God's actions and decrees. Rather, it is to protest God's injustice and demand a quality of life equal to the deeds that one does. Or did she say this? The book of Job teaches us that machloket is allowed as a last resort, while obedience is preferred. Machloket is allowed when all of the attempts to understand seem to fail. Number three, the book of Job teaches us that our relationships with God are now entirely dependent on our willingness and readiness to argue and push back. Interesting enough, the class thought that she wrote number three, but actually what is true is she writes number one. The book of Job teaches us that to be God's beloved servant no longer requires voiceless acceptance of all God's actions and decrees. Rather, it's protesting God's injustice and to demand a quality of life equal to the deeds that one does. So then in class, we actually paired up with each other, and we each had a chance of kind of telling the story of God and the machloket in the early narratives of the Torah. This is important that you try to do because this is going to be probably 60, 65, 70% of your final exam will be this chart without any of these things in orange. You'll need to write in the orange, and you'll need to kind of explain kind of the history of machloket over time. And the way we did this in class was when we went over it. Well, so give it a try first. Um, so question number 21 is Adam and Eve. How is that machloket created? Number 22, Cain and Abel. How is that machloket created? Number 23, Noah and the flood. How is that obedience? Number 24, Tower of Babel. How is that even more obedience? Number 25, Abe at Sodom and Gomorrah. How is that machloket? Abe at the Akedah. How is that obedience? And number 27, how does the Job story relook at the Akedah story? Okay, and let me just go over it really quickly. That Adam and Eve, there is in the second creation story, it seems like God creates a hierarchy by creating Eve from Adam. That creates some kind of discrepancy, and that requires and that allows an hierarchy, and that allows the snake to come in and kind of exploit and create a machloket, saying like, hey, I can make you equal to your husband, and that causes machloket. Next, we have Cain and Abel, and God tries to almost learn from Adam and Eve's story about that, how God created the hierarchy. So now God's going to try to have a more balanced relationship. So he favors Abel, but that actually creates also machloket. Then God says, enough with machloket. I'm done with that. I want someone who's completely obedient. God finds Noah and is like, hey, this is the life I'm looking for, a life where someone is completely obedient. And then after that, we see that even more obedience comes by all these people doing exactly, having no disagreements about what to do. But that actually also causes machloket. So it's like obedience taken to its extreme also causes machloket. Oh my goodness! So there has to be some kind of like balance between machloket and obedience. Then we see God saying that's not working. I'm going to go back and find a machloket maker. Sodom and Amorah, and then we see Abe the Akedah, but also being obedient. So is Abe a machloket maker? Is Abe obedience? And then the book of Job kind of makes us question, hey, actually, machloket could have been okay in the Akedah story. Abe could have actually argued with God. For some reason, Abe doesn't, but he could have, and probably God would have accepted that, and that is being okay. It wouldn't have kind of uh, changed the Akedah story. All right, that's it. Um, Oh, actually, sorry. One last thing we did in class was we then took time to look at the today is Kristallnacht. So I'm just going to show you one video, eyewitness video from Kristallnacht. So I'm going to kind of go to that screen right now. Let me see if I can find it. To go to no. Hold on for a second. I'm going to find it for us. Um, okay, so I sent this. I sent this to the whole class today. Um, hold on, 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 hold on. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Where is the email I sent to all of you? Where is that email? It's coming. I'm going to find it. It's going. I'm going to find it. Where could it be? Where could it be? Here it is. Okay, good. So here's the learning journey, and I'm just going to play you one video since it is Kristallnacht today, which is really marks the beginning of the Holocaust for the Jewish people, the night of the broken glasses. I'm going to close this door, and I'm going to play Shayna's introduction here. Thank you, Shayna. And now we're going to move to just this one video right here. I'll stop it a couple times to ask a couple questions as well. So, question number 28 is, what makes Kristallnacht different than the acts of violence that may have happened before? Question number 29, how many businesses were destroyed? So, for question number 30, how is the requests for emigration an indication that the Jews understood what was going to be happening in Germany? How many children go to England? That's question number 31. Thank you.